Everyone, sorry, technical difficulties.
Fantastic, great. We can see you very loud and clear. Um,
Is it all the conversation will happen in English or mixed?
so, sir, as per the registration created by Innovation Consulting, with support from all the major organizations in Bangladesh working for the development of the country, to not only harvest what we have achieved in last 50 years, but also to map the future of Bangladesh and to recommend policies that should be taking Bangladesh forward. So it is the largest multi-agency development dialogue that is happening at this point in Bangladesh, and we are proud to have the Financial Express supporting us. Especially, we are thankful to Department of Economics and also the university, our academic partner. And in this time, we are further supported by our thematic partners which includes Policy Exchange, Empower, and others. So I thank everyone, and I wish good luck to all the panelists who have joined today. And without further ado, I request Misha to take this forward. Thank you.
I would like to request Mohammad Arif Hossain, CEO and Executive Director of Farming Future Bangladesh, to present his keynote speech.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Arif, CEO and Executive Director of Farming Future Bangladesh. And I'm also working as the visiting fellow and scientist of Cornell University based in USA. May I request for the screen share option?
Done, Arif.
Yeah, thank you. So as you all know that I'm taking this privilege and opportunity of having myself sharing this short presentation with the esteemed panelists we have today. And I'm particularly thanking Mr. Wyatt and all the leading consultants from innovation for giving Farming Future Bangladesh this opportunity of sharing some progress, future of agriculture in regard to food security and digital agriculture that we anticipate to happen or likely to happen within a short period of time. So in my presentation, I'd like to include and share few information. I would be very limited in sharing data. And then we would see what are the challenges that we have, what are the areas that we can cooperate and complement, particularly bringing private, public sector and integrating research for sustainable food security in Bangladesh. So without further ado, I would jump into my technical keynote session today. So food security was a priority for Bangladesh and has remained as the priority for Bangladesh. If we look around and if we want to see the landscape of food security that has different avenue and different factors, but realistically, what we see that end of the day, we have only 8 billion hectares of arable land to feed more than 160 million people. But fortunately, since 1972, the whole agricultural system has drastically improved. Our enabling environment and policy support, and also different integration from different community, public sector, private sector, everyone together made it happen that despite having different challenges, Bangladesh has potentially gained different momentum and gained, like a leverage to ensure that the supply chain is moving on and people are getting food. But there are areas where we need to improve. And what we have seen that the crop production has been significantly improved. The nutrition index that we observe and see that child mortality rate and other areas has been improved. But there are still opportunities to improve, like maternal health. And as you know that out of every 3 child, 1 child remains undernourished in Bangladesh. So we need to look into the deeper areas that how this can be improved in coming time. But unfortunately, to avail all this goal and the sustainable food security that we talk about,
Most probably, Mohammed Arif, some technical problems. Please reconnecting.
So maybe, sorry,
Sorry for the interruption. I had power cut. Just allow me 1 minute.
Sure. So as we wait for you to connect back, maybe on the chat room, we can start having some questions and reflections from our participants from all around the world. So the theme today is from food security to digitization, progress and future of agriculture in Bangladesh. So it would be great to have the combined experience that is present today in this room to be reflected on the chat box.
Yeah. So as I was talking, I'm not sure whether I'm still audible or not.
We can hear you, Arif. Go ahead, please.
Sorry for this disruption. This is a challenge. When we talk about development, these are the enabling environment we talk about, but these are inbuilt challenges we have. So anyway, in last 50 years, we have seen significant improvement in crop. Different varieties has been developed. Rice production increased, average productivity increased up to 3 to 4 times. We have very good improvement in livestock. More than 20% of our population are actually involved in livestock profession. And then milk and meat, eggs, even in fish, we have significant improvement. But what happened that during this time, the green revolution occurred. We have high yielding and hybrid crop varieties that helped irrigation system improve.
Extremely sorry. It seems like Arif Hossain has been disconnected again. This time, I'm sure his power is back.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, Arif, loud and clear.
Apology to everyone, really apology. So I was talking about the crop production scenario and how we are improving in that and what factors actually helped. And what happened during this time, we had a consistent supportive policy and both public and private sector investment helped us. The human capital that we have was helping. Though we say that the engagement and involvement of farm, like particularly farmer, number of farmers has significantly reduced, particularly in GDP, but still there are few areas where we received, like global recognition. The rice production, we are probably in a way to progress more. We are third in the production row. Then in fish, in vegetable, and particularly potato, and fruits, we have significant improvement in these areas. So if we talk about the food security and sustainability, which I believe is the key for our discussion today, then there are four, I mean, if the 5 theme we highlight in the core, then food security actually hits 4 different sustainable development goals, particularly the hunger issue, and then well-being, then sustainable consumption and production pattern, and then the last one is like strengthening the partnership and collaboration with other like-minded entity. So as of now, the hunger issue we have moderately improved, even for the well-being and good health. But we really don't know what are the available data in responsible consumption and production. Particularly, these are the area where even the consumers are very concerned in Bangladesh about food, safe food, and like the supply chain and all this thing. And the partnership is stagnant in Bangladesh in a way that we hardly have seen any functional or very beneficial public-private partnership happened in Bangladesh. So there are avenues of improvement in those areas. So from my standpoint, or from our study, what we realized and believed in that the public sector, meaning the different public institute, research institute, academia, then scientists, and private sector need to coordinate and collaborate so that we have an environment where we can continue with advanced research and innovation. The capacity building requires for locally led technology. As of now, we see mostly, like improved technology, either imported or modified in a way that we adopted them. But we really need locally led technology to be built, to be managed, and to be run. We need significant investment in youth and women empowerment and next generation farmer and scientists. The average age for our farmers right now is 50 to 60 years old. And by next 5, 10, or 15 years, they all are going to retire. So we really need to think critically that how these next generation farmers are actually evolving and kind of like moving ahead with entrepreneurship attitude, with modernization and mechanization. Then we need a transparency and accountability in all steps of the agricultural system, from production to development to marketing to value chain. As we are all like aware of the recent pricing issue, food price has significantly increased. There are a lot of crops and products which are literally, we rely on import. So those are the areas where we need to work. We have got our improvement in the productivity in production and having the production done through pharma, but post-production interventions are critical to see that how this can actually benefit both the consumers and can compete with the open market, with the global market. Then we require private sector investment, particularly in research area, and partnership with government and a sustainability approach, because mostly what is seen in many of the developing countries, private sectors actually don't get that much priority and leverage and support from the government, mostly technical support they don't get. So they need to do everything by them and run by them. But in the developed countries, what we have seen that things are done by private investor, they kind of work with academia, and most of the research are done in a way that those are demand-driven research, very applied research. So we need similar environment and opportunities and collaboration in Bangladesh. Then lastly, what I am promoting now is that we need an enabling environment. And by enabling environment, we need policy decision based on the evidence. And any regulatory decision and practice should come from the evidence and from the scientific evidence that we get. So here I'm going to share a few of the challenge areas that we anticipate might happen and can impact our agricultural sustainability. Anyway, so I have my little child knocking me from the door. This happens when I have home office. Anyway, so the climate change will have significant impact. The futuristic thing that we are talking about might have some challenge area in it. And the temperature, global temperature is rising. We all are aware of it. We have more climate smart variety, climate smart agriculture technology. Then very recent COVID-19 pandemic has created food crisis and agricultural, disruption in Bangladesh and in other part of the world. We have seen how Sri Lanka is actually suffering. They took a drastic decision to move with they're suffering. So we need to learn from the situations how we can tackle our current challenges that we have. We believe that this is a timely thing. Eventually we'll get through it, but still this learning will help us to understand and to remain prepared for future challenge areas. So the other part of my talk is to share about the opportunities that we have, particularly in the digital technology area. So digitization as of now in Bangladesh, we are actually exploring different opportunities. Mostly we are confined to developing precision agriculture, then developing smartphone app, integrating value chain in online system. But apart from all these areas, technologies are actually very advanced now. You have big data for a small piece of land. You can integrate blockchain for the marketing. Then machine learning can actually help you, even artificial intelligence and all the technologies that we see in advanced in world. So we need to understand that how we can locally customize all these things and can critically evaluate them, whether we need 100% mechanization or whether we need a gradual intervention, because as of now, many of our farm community are actually reliable and relying on agricultural community and agricultural profession. So if we plan to move 100% with mechanization and digitization, then definitely that will probably have a negative impact. So we need to be very critical that how much we want to adopt, in which areas we want to intervene. But digital, technologies and digitization has huge opportunities and potential in such areas where human mind, human brain requires significant amount of time, resource, and with the sustainable approach for agricultural production, we are looking forward to a system where we will require less fertilizer, less water, and less amount of natural resource. For example, scientists in Netherlands, they can grow tomato in greenhouse 60 to 80 times higher than the conventional field. So by
আরিফ ভাই একটু ইন্টারাপ্ট করবো আরিফ ভাই আপনি জাস্ট একটু টাইমিংটা মনে করে দেওয়ার জন্য you have to wrap up in next 3 minutes, less than 3 minutes actually.
Okay, I will try to make it in 2. So these are the area where we need to think critically. Then the agri-biotech, this is a very highly advanced technology that is emerging, and to do so we need to look forward, and I'm giving an example of how Farming Future Bangladesh is actually integrating and enabling, trying to improve the enabling environment. We are a science-based organization, and we have a theory of change where we try to engage different stakeholder and community, and at the end of the day, we try to see that how empowered they are to get policies and practice which are based on evidence. And to do so, we engage with the research community. We are working with the policy environment, and we do a lots of communication and outreach engagement activity. This is our snowflake model where we connect all different stakeholders. These are the few activities that we do. We work with extension, scientists, faith community, media, nutrition, decision makers, and civil society official. So these are the few activities that we have done in recent times. Working with the media, providing them training, taking them to lab and field, doing TV and radio interview and talk shows, and trying to share the updated information and evidence with wider audience. Then working with the nutrition and health community to understand that what are the challenges in food security and how we can integrate our innovations to address those challenge area. Then we are working with the faith community, trying to understand their capacity in food security related issue and topics, trying to educate them about different innovations so that they can have a very positive influential role in the grassroots community. We also work with youth We are developing their capacity, building networks, and collaborating with different universities so that we all can learn together. And we also have some initiative of global engagement of extension and scientists. These are our few partners that are working, and yeah, that's all I had. So I'll stop here. And but the core of my topic is that agriculture itself is a comprehensive tool. It is integrated with other different avenues. Like you need to work with Ministry of Ag, you need to work with Ministry of Economics, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Environment. So they all work together. So any policy, they have complementary role. They have a like integrated approach to other ministry and other avenue need to be considered. And it's a growing and ever improving procedure. Agriculture, what we see now, was not same some 500 years back. So our government, the visionary leader that we had, as you're celebrating 50th anniversary, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman was the first leader who invested 100 crore taka out of 500 crore in the budget. So agriculture was a priority for him, and our ruling government, current government, has also taken that privilege to move ahead. We are significantly improving in the area of biotechnology and gene editing, which is more futuristic. As we talk about fourth industrial revolution, these are the area where we need to invest and integrate our partners and collaborators together. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Arif Hossain Bhai. That was a lovely takes us back to our panel discussion, and we are going to invite our esteemed panelists. But shuru korar age, just as a note, each of our panelists will get maximum 10 minutes, and the questions that we will be receiving, as we said, Amra group kore will be sharing with you. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Dr. Nazrul Islam Sir, Visiting Professor, Department of Economics, School of Business and Economics, North-South University. Sir-এর জন্য আমাদের প্রশ্ন ছিল, we are observing shortages across the supply chain as the pandemic messes with shipping, demand, supply, and all the other levels of the global economy. How to respond to this disruption, and what government actions do you think helped Bangladesh to achieve food security? Moving forward, where do you see the government should focus to support agricultural growth?
Thank you, Nisha Mejabin. And first of all, I would like to thank Mr. Rubayat for inviting me, and also from the Department of Economics nominating me to present North-South University in this forum. This is a great opportunity for me to share, and also I would like to congratulate Mr. Arif Hossain, the CEO, and a very detailed, most comprehensive presentation highlighting the past, present, and future of agriculture. Little bit my background. I am basically an agriculture economist. I graduated from Bangladesh University. My career started from the university, then to Bangladesh Rice Research Institute. And from there, I went to many different places. Ultimately, I settled in Australia, and I have been working for different universities there, then with the Department of Agriculture and Food in Western Australia as a senior economist and policy advisor. And then I am affiliated with the University of Western Australia and Curtin University. Now I am in the economics department in North-South University as a visiting professor. The question that I am posed, I thought that the way I designed my presentation, can I share my presentation slide now?
Sir, we have it here.
Sorry?
Sir, we have the copy that you have sent.
Oh,
to us.
so you will be sharing, is that? So I just prompt?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes,
okay.
sir.
Okay, that will be good. Okay, so the topic that based on the question, I just use the title as responding to pandemic disruption for sustainable food system and some options for intervention strategies. That's what actually I designed my presentation. And when pandemic is, the interim event that came up, and that is transitional event. And what happened, and then what sort of strategies can be undertaken. That's what actually I just wanted to talk about today. So mainly when Corona pandemic started and we found that millions contaminated, hundreds and thousands and even millions died now. People are locked, and particularly the social distance was a problem. And that has, next please. Is slide moving? Okay. So, and that has created tremendous consequences. Pressure on health system, supply, shortages of equipment, normal day-to-day activities were disrupted, business and factories stopped or closed, unemployment, people started to move, particularly for Bangladesh, from city area to urban area, rural areas, and mostly the food, transportation, distribution, and marketing have drastically disrupted. And that has created both economic and also, on impact on the food system. So next, please. So millions of people, affected the livelihood, and million lives in daily wages, earnings, and income was lost. Starvation started, and government has.
Sir, একটু রিকোয়েস্ট করবো আরেকটু যদি স্যার জোরে বলতেন খুব ভালো হতো।
Oh, I am staying a little bit far away from the microphone. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so these are some of the consequences. This is just an overview. Start my video. Oh, sorry. Okay, I think my video is going off and on. Perhaps if it is not there. Okay. But you can hear me, can you?
Yes, sir. আপনি শুনতে পাচ্ছি।
Okay. So next, please. Yeah, John is being called here. Okay. So now I think slides. Is it missing slides? Missing. So my aim is to highlight that how food production, transportation, distribution, and marketing have been affected. So and to suggest some strategic option for different actors. That's what actually I am going to talk about. And first of all, yes. Anybody talking? Anybody asking anything?
No, sir.
All right. So food system, just to talk about it, actually what sort of strategic options that we should have. So food system, we know that the food system is a very complex and diverse activities and processes. So I'm just very briefly talking about the understanding of the food system. It includes production, processing, and distribution, and any activities that we do from paddock to plate that comes under the food system. But one thing that is very, important included in the food system is the sustainability. Sustainability refers to the practices that are environmentally friendly and include attention for food security. And food security is already, Arif has defined that according to FAO, that adequate, safe, and secure food available on demand. Very briefly, that is the definition of food security that is used. So, and in the world, we find many different types of food systems, and it could be traditional food system, that is Bangladesh. Still, we have traditional food systems where, family farm, they operate, not much commercialization is happening. And although Dr. Arif has mentioned, if I'm not mistaken, his name, Arif, yes, that we have changed a lot. And I can share one of my experience that when I admitted to the Agriculture University in 1965, then one of my father's friend was telling that, have you given up studying? So that sort of impression, we had that doing agriculture means that you are not studying anymore. So still we are traditional agriculture, I should say. Then there are conventional food systems, global food systems, community food system, organic food systems, cooperative food system, and also slow food systems. There are many, and they are unique in some respects in terms of their features and characteristics. And also food system, it may have many different dimensions, geopolitical dimensions, and it could be local. And particularly, I'm just talking about these things because the strategy intervention will vary from this geopolitical dimension and the food system wise. So in that context, when pandemic started in early 2020, and we have seen what happened in Bangladesh. So, and from the top, many policy recommendations were prescribed, and particularly the failure of coordination was observed. That not synchronization and coordination was happening. So, having seen that, I just came up with some conceptual framework that how effectively this the food system can be made resilient when this sort of pandemic situation arises. I'm not sure whether the figure is there in the slide. Next slide, please. I'm not sure that figure is given here in the slide. Have you cut down the slide? Are you listening to me, Misha? Next slide, please. Oh. Hello. You're muted.
You are audible, sir.
You're muted. Misha.
You are audible, sir.
No, I'm just asking for the slide. The slides that I have given, it's not all the slides are there. Anyway, okay. So just because that slide is important to indicate what are those strategies and where it should go, and that slide is not there in that screen. Can I share quickly my slides? Anyway,
আপনার স্লাইড শেয়ার করেন, আমি আপনাকে অ্যাক্সেস দিয়ে দিচ্ছি প্লিজ।
No, I was not told that those. Anyway, so can I share my screen?
স্যার আপনি শেয়ার করতে পারবেন এখন।
Okay, just a minute. I'm just. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir. We can see your screen, sir.
Why my, yeah.
Sir, would you be able to wrap up in next 2-3 minutes?
Yes, I can do that.
Okay, sir.
All right, so this is just the supply chain, because as the question was posed that how the supply chain will be affected, and we find that I have taken a very simplified. This is a regional economic model structure that I have used, and so this is that from the input supply it is moving. Ultimately, it is going to the final consumers. And particularly with respect to pandemic situation, we found that during harvesting time, laborers were not able to move. And so government had to come down and did all the facilities, particularly moving labor from north to south to the Haur area for harvesting. So those are very, transitory strategies that is undertaken by. But if that sort of situation continues, then obviously we plan accordingly that how incremental strategies could be undertaken. By incremental strategies, I mean that okay, you just start now and gradually you develop and make that changes. And traditional, anything happens now and it will disappear. So just to face the current situation and make modification and transformation. Obviously, it will be whole structural changes, particularly if you go for changing the land structure or land development policy or land tenure policy. Those are transformational. Particularly during the pandemic, we have seen that this value chain, the supply chain, this is very mostly disrupted, and infrastructure, road transportation. So obviously, there are many different organizations involved. Looked at the local level, Thana level, how coordination could, and I found that in one Upazila, there are around 40 organizations involved with agriculture, and it is very difficult to coordinate. So we need to minimize and the number of stakeholders involved, particularly those who are giving strategic impact. So 40 organizations giving effect to the agricultural development in a local area, really difficult to control. So I just want to stop here, and this is one example. If we would like to find out that what are these strategy and how important and how this sort of workshop or could be organized and identified. And this is just, I have given an example of Western Australia, what happens to the climate change adaptation and the governance strategy and magnitude of impact and likelihood impact. So these are some of the governance strategies and what should be which one should be the impact and who should do this. Okay, but I have not done in case of Bangladesh this sort of studies, but it is very important that we come up with lots of suggestions and strategies, but how important is the strategies and who should take the actions and to what extent that is achievable, what sort of magnitude of impact it might have, and how likely that it can be achieved. That sort of assessment, I think we need to do in case of Bangladesh. Thank you.
Okay, sir, thank you so much. Thank you so much. This actually brings us. So this brings us Subrat Kumar, founder and CEO, Bhalo Social Enterprise. আমাদের প্রশ্ন ছিল সুব্রতর জন্য, how do you think startups and technology-based companies will change the future of agriculture in Bangladesh? What immediate policy actions are needed to achieve technology-driven growth in agriculture in Bangladesh? Subroto.
Thank you, Misha. Before I start, a little bit of introduction about myself. I'm not an agriculturist by training. I worked largely in the development sector and also in the private sector. And in 2019, because of my work in the development sector, exposure to the leading agricultural input companies, financial institutions, and agro-processing companies, and banking on those experience, and also the industry network, I started a small initiative called Bhalo back in 2019. It is a matter of debate whether you call Bhalo a startup or not, but what we're trying to do is that we're trying to solve a problem of the agriculture industry, especially on the input side. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. So before we get into what startups could possibly solve and what technology, inverted comma, because I believe what you are meaning by technology is not biotechnology, you are meaning ICT. How ICT technology, the use of ICT technology can solve the problems of agriculture. So before we get agriculture in Bangladesh, and I think our keynote speaker, he has already shed a light on that. The major problems, if I sum up from his presentation and also from other sources, the major problems of agriculture in Bangladesh is that we have a large number of population to feed. We have reducing land every year. We're losing 1% land every year. Climate change is a looming concern. We're already seeing that across the country. We have productivity challenges as well as also lots of supply chain inefficiencies on this agriculture value chain into three buckets: the upstream, which is basically the delivery of inputs, services, mechanization, and finance to farmers; the midstream, which is the production; and then the downstream, which is basically the trading and processing of agricultural produce. And if we dive into it, we see there are a number of problems in each of these areas, especially for inputs. There are issues with quality, there are issues with availability, there are issues with affordability of certain quality of inputs. We have some of the multinationals working, and if you ask these companies, you'll see that they are not reaching a large number of farmers, because the large number of farmers in Bangladesh are smallholders, more than 80% of them, and some of these leading companies are only reaching the large and medium farmers. And the reason is that they possibly do not have the way to reach out to the small and medium farmers, the very smallholders in Bangladesh who are engaged in production of agricultural produce, feed, crops, or livestock. On the production side, processing side, it is not really up to the mark when we have to compete with the international standard, be it the national market or be it the international market. When it comes to the national market, we are largely dependent on import of certain commodities, and we are not able to compete with the produce of those countries, and that's a big problem. The productivity is not, the cost is high, local production is high, the quality is not up to the mark, and that's why we see that despite having so many agro-processing companies in Bangladesh, they are reliant on importing product from other countries. And yeah, so we need to also look at like what has taken us, brought us this far, and we need some fundamental interventions, especially on the input side, on the production side, and on the processing side. We need fundamental intervention. We need something like a supply of good quality seeds or supply of good quality artificial semen. So these are some of the things that are necessary for improving agriculture in Bangladesh. Now let's come into like what startups are doing. So startups are largely playing the role of a middleman. On the input side, creating access to inputs for finance, access to inputs for farmers, which we are doing. Access to advice or information for farmers. Some are working on creating improved access to finance for farmers, and some are trying to also connect farmers to consumers. But when you look at like the entire startup scenario in Bangladesh, and I try to compare with other countries, what is missing here is that obviously these are innovations by itself. But how many of these are actually solving problems at a large scale? Or are they trying to focus on certain niche and then trying to kind of retrofit? I think that the startups need to really think about, like, they should really go after problems of the agriculture sector and then try to solve it, rather than trying to bring a technological solution, particularly the technological solution, and then try to fit it into solving the problems. So do we really need machine learning? Do we need artificial intelligence? We need to ask these questions. I mean, how do we really solve the problems with smallholder farmers who need better inputs, who need better advice, who need better access to finance, and who need better access to markets? How do you solve these problems with artificial intelligence or machine learning? We need to ask this question. We also need to think about whether, obviously these things are not going to be sustainable. So one of the biggest problem is that when you try to come up with something innovative, you need to give a lot of time and you need to come up with a solid business model. And unless you have that business model, it's really very difficult for us, for the startup to scale. And also the solution has to be also scalable. Now, the challenges that the startups are facing in terms of like bringing in these innovations. we don't see many of the startups coming from the agriculture universities. We don't see startups coming out of the agriculture industry. And why is that? Why is entrepreneurs not coming here, so not focusing on those areas? Why are the universities not collaborating with the industry to bring about this innovation in enterprises? Why don't we see any of the startups in Bangladesh? We don't see anybody coming out from the agriculture industry. We need to patronize these kind of efforts. We need to encourage, especially the agriculturists, especially the people who have worked in the industries, to come forward and take up this kind of initiative. And those who have taken this initiative, they should be supported from the public sector. They should be supported. And this scale. I would really love to see that the Ministry of Agriculture taking efforts, not only with efforts coming from the ICT Ministry, because what ICT Ministry is doing is sector agnostic, and they have a broad agenda. But I would really like to see the Ministry of Agriculture and Ministry of ICT collaborating and especially focusing on agriculture enterprises. And when we talk about innovation and technology, let's not just restrict ourselves to ICT, or let's not also restrict ourselves to only startups. We need and the patron. I have to say, I don't see a significant policy bottleneck. All we need is to come together. All we need is to kind of give us the due focus that agriculture deserves. Thanks, Michelle. Happy to take any follow-up questions.
অনেকগুলো কোয়েশ্চেন এসেছে, কিন্তু এর মধ্যে একটা আপাতত জিজ্ঞেস করছি যে ফুড সিকিউরিটির জন্য হাইব্রিড, সো ফর অনিয়ন
seasonal. So it would be good if Tazra Bhai could answer that.
One question, Shubhrata, you asked, let's say, why we are not observing technology companies from agriculture university. Even from the do any of you want to answer this question? যে আমরা agriculture university থেকে startups দেখছি না কেন? Probably that's what Shubhrata asked.
Yeah,
Anyone
just to add to that, Rubat, I was talking to one of the faculty from Agriculture University, and they recently conducted a survey, and they found only 2% out of 1,400 graduates who undertook entrepreneurship, and one of them was also outside agriculture industry. So if that is the scenario, how can we expect that they get into startups?
Great insight. আর কেউ এটার ব্যাপারে কথা বলতে চাইলে I would really benefit from it.
I think.
Assalamu alaikum.
Please go on.
I agree with Shubhrata that they should actually emphasize, the startup program. At the moment, what is happening, the graduates coming out from the agriculture university, it's perhaps they think that okay, they have avenues to go out and get job and then do the job. So entrepreneurial attitude is not being developed there. Although there are actually say agribusiness center of agribusiness institute are there, but they are not coming up as an that's what I should be undertaking.
Maybe Hassan Shokun, you probably wanted to answer.
Assalamu alaikum. Mehdi Hassan. I am an agriculturist from Haji Muhammad Danish Science and Technology University, Dinajpur. So I want to answer that question like from a student level point of view, that students are more eager to be a BCS cadre than an entrepreneur. It's not their problem, but we face this problem from the society. Society are asking to be a cadre, not like you will be a farmer or you will be an entrepreneurship with development agriculture like that. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you.
Tazwar,
Can I just make a point on that as well. I'm Hilal Ahmed from North South University.
Sir, go ahead. Sir, go ahead, please.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. So this is just echoing what my previous commentator said. Basically, objectives or the incentives are very different. So the startups, they're trying to make business, and the academics and the students, their purpose is to get a degree and get something published in academic journals for the career progression and their own satisfaction, right? So if you can somehow bridge these two incentives, right, that you're facing, probably you can get something done collaboratively. That's just a thought. It's a very general comment. Thanks.
Thank you. Taswar Awal, you wanted to probably answer.
Yes, I think there was a question about hybrid onion. Onion hybrid in Bangladesh that is catered to the Bangladesh market. High pungency, brown color, low water content for farmers' storability. It is in the market. It has recently been introduced years ago. It's still fresh, but we are seeing significant this seed in production. If we can keep marketing it in the future, we believe we will be able to capture all of Bangladesh's demand, and Bangladesh will be in the future be able to export onion once the hybrid onion that we have produced as Laltir becomes self-sufficient in the market. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, can we ask a little bit more?
We will move ahead.
Sorry?
Yeah, this Shoaib here. I asked that question actually about hybrid onion. Can I ask a little bit more?
Mr. Shoaib, we will allow you again at the end, okay? Taswar Awal will have another session. Thank you.
May I respond small?
I can understand that we all have a lot of questions because agriculture is something which is very important to heart. It may seem boring at times, but it is important. But today we have time constraints. We will try to take as many questions as possible. But now we would like to continue with the panels. And with this, I'd like to invite Nadira Khanum Appa. Extremely sorry, last time Appar designation ta bhul lekha chilo. Nadira Khanum Appa is the Gender Equality Specialist, Co-Water International Pro-Nurse Project. Appar jonno amader proshno chilo. Women play an important role in agriculture, yet their contribution remains mostly unpaid. What strategies do you recommend for formal engagement of women in the agriculture labor force? Nadira Appa?
Are you hearing me? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, Appa.
Yes, yeah, okay. Actually, I'd like to thank you. Lots of discussion actually is happening here. There is a huge insight that I already captured, and you already given me the key question. My main discussion will be around this key question, and maybe I have more than that. Later on, I'll maybe cover in any way. So that is main question is that this women play important role, yes, and how actually it is they're contributing a huge in agriculture sector, but anyway it is not recognized as unpaid job they're doing. And if you ask me, then I like to say this is more than 60% women are doing this unpaid job in agriculture sector, but anyway it was not recognized. And we have a lots of policy procedure, and they're working huge in agriculture labor force, and there is a huge wage gap that I will try to mention in throughout my discussion. That first I like to say that is what kind of challenge actually women are facing in agriculture sector. This all of the policy procedure are just I am reviewing the national agriculture policy in 2018. And found there is only one section. You know, there is lots of good work for the development of this country for the agriculture sector. That is gathered in this policy. Is to empowering women, there is only one very small section, and 7 bullets is there. And page 44, if you get chance to go through it. And it is, yes, there is some very important issues they captured in these policies. But there is a separate section. It's not common. It's throughout the policies. There is no actually it is using gender lens. Either this policy will be equally applicable for the women farmer. Yes, because of, if we want to talk about it, just we need to talk about this unequal status of man and woman. They are behind position. Either they are equally capable like a man to capture the new technologies, techniques, their skills is adequate to adapt the agriculture technology. And whatever the inputs we are providing by the government, by the private sector, either they are equally equipped, either they have equal access on those areas. These are the things I like to say. And their IT skill. If you go to the rural women, you will say they're using a phone. It's a mobile phone, but it is not a smartphone. There is a hub. We have a what we are calling digital hub. Either women equally, they have that access to use this digital hub. I will tell no, because there is a simple, it's a mobile phone. It is not a smartphone. And it's women, they have another issues is huge number of women are working in labor force. But what is the wage status? How they are getting from it? This is the good gap. Just I'm gone through a report in MJF, Manushya Janna Foundation, and I did some study on it also. And I found there is a huge wage gap between men and women in the agriculture field. This is almost half. If men get, this 214, almost 214, this is the wage gap. So that is either it is equal, either this agriculture policy is telling about this policy that should be addressed equally. Men and women will get equal wages, but is in practically what we are practicing. And who are implemented in different policies, procedure, whatever the operational manual guideline, whatever we are introducing, who are actually implementing this policy guideline? Are they actually sensitized? Are they aware about women's status? How actually women are getting this kind of benefit? Either they have equal access on those areas, and I think we have a big gap on that particular areas. And financial institution, women, there is a huge condition to get loan and other support. So that women have not that capacity to get this loan and other support from the financial institution because they have no land. Only 4% of women are getting is, this land ownership in our country. So that is, there is a huge disparity in this particular field. And if I talk about this private sector, they are focused only men-focused intervention. They always implement in practical field. What kind of men-focused I am telling? Because of they are providing training, they are providing different seed orientation on their product. And either women are equally capable to handle all this information, they have equally access to receive all those information. Either they are capable to apply those information that private sector and government is providing to the farmer. And even the word farmer, female farmer, male farmer, actually we are used to say about farmer. Farmer means we always feel it is male, it's not female. So that is, there is a huge gap for the woman to actually get access on those services. These are the areas. And policy that I already said is gender neutral policy. Always we are implementing in whatever the area. Just maybe there is some question to address those areas. We try to put some sections, a small section. Just yes, empowering women will do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 activities. That's all. That is the areas. And land distribution policy, this in most of the people are this as per Muslim religion, this woman will get half. And practically, this practice level is very low. is not, they are not getting half of their brother. It's very low, that I already said, is only 40%. And security is another concern. When women go to the, when we are talking about formal sector, then women need to, their mobility is very important. Then they need to go outside the home, work, and to interact with the different people. And then security is a big concern. You know, this violence status, gender-based violence status in our country is significantly high. And there is no government and non-government, whatever we want to say, there is no actually security mechanism to address those areas. So that is, and social norm is a huge issues in our country. And there is a age is a factor, woman is a factor, and security is a factor. This is a lot of factor. And in market system, if we want to work on this, I'm talking about private sector, and the main key position, main leader of this private sector, and they are they equally sensitized on this area? They target their business? They target their benefit. This is not, the woman inclusion is not their concern. They actually search the benefit. Whereas they will get benefit, they will be there. But if they engage women, how actually it will contribute, ultimately contribute to them, how it will ultimately contribute, benefit them, that kind of analysis is not work in this particular sector. And in government people also, I like to say, who are working in this sector, agriculture sector, they are also there is a huge gap in lack of awareness. So that is, women are not getting enough support service from this government and private sector. And I like to say wage gap, that I already said this, there is a huge wage gap, and you know, this woman already accepted it. They thought that yes, maybe this is the law, this is the policy practice, we have to actually accommodate this. It's not that they have no idea about the constitution. Constitution is for you and me, we know it. It's in our Article 28, actually, how our article treated men and women in this, all are equal in this, under this state. But it's that kind of idea, and in our social norm and practice is not support with it. So support these policies, support this constitution. And service, woman friendly, this woman farmer, where they will go to take the service, what kind of advice they need, they don't have that kind of information. They always depend on maybe household head or man on this, about this. They have no idea about it. So that is, there is a huge challenge on this. And I already said this, they have no idea about this technology, this updated technology, updated technique, how it will be used, and how they will get the appropriate information from which sources. They have no idea about it. And how they will select the quality seed, quality feed, you know, this is different techniques. They have no idea. And sometimes they need some practical demonstration. We can't say this. In maybe one demonstration by the private sector or government will get the right result. Maybe it is effective for the man, but it's always this kind of information dissemination will not be effective for the woman. They need a separate strategy for that kind of understanding, because this is very new tech, they're already behind. And this kind of new tech, actually, they are not familiar with. So that is repeated time they need a very specific, very separate strategy to actually disseminate that kind of information, to actually bring them in a practice level. And workload, you know, this is a huge challenging area. We are talking about this woman, we like to see as a woman empowerment point of view. Women will work in agriculture field, they will work in formal sector in agriculture, everything we are talking about. But is their household role in any way? There is no support mechanism in the rural level. So that is, women can manage their household and can engage in informal sector in agriculture. That kind of mechanism is not introduced in our government and non-government mechanism. It is not working. So that is their work burden. It is not decreasing, or it is not balancing. Rather than they are overloaded. So that is, to balance this work, what kind of intervention we need to do, what kind of a strategy we need to focus on. And that is very important for them. And there is a huge harmful social norm. Where is a financial interaction?
আমরা কি 1 মিনিটের মধ্যে wrap up করতে পারি?
Yes, I will. And there is a lot of harmful social norms. So that is, we need to work on these areas, and how actually to address all of this area, how we'll go way forward on these areas, how actually we'll use some mobile-based easy technology for them, very close supervision, training, orientation, woman-focused intervention and strategy, and during designing any policy, how we will use gender lens with it, how actually is very close to demo plot for the women so that they can see and practically can practice it, that kind of things. And we can how we can engage with financial institution, how we can sensitize in private and government sector. This is that kind of thing we need to consider to engage all of these people together. And women employment. This is field level to assist the other women farmer. We need to employ as a good number of female in practical fields, so that is they can assist the women farmer to understand the new take, and that ultimately will actually accelerate us to achieve the this revolution in this sector, in agriculture sector, that Bangladesh is proceeding is hugely. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Appa. Generally, তো অনেক questions থাকে. In fact, আমাদের একটা question ছিল যেটা আপনার discussion already covered হয়ে গিয়েছে. So I'm not repeating the question. Thank you so much. With this, we will move to our next panelist, Zakiuzzamman Bhai, Country Representative, UNIDO. ভাইয়ার জন্য আমাদের প্রশ্ন ছিল, how the digitization hub play a role in the development of agriculture? What might be or should be the structure of the hub according to your opinion? How does the 3ADI accelerator pilot in Bangladesh intend to support agricultural market systems development in Bangladesh? Zakiuzzamman Bhai.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to Innovation for inviting me in this interesting webinar. Let me give you a brief background about me. I'm Zakiuzzamman, working for as country representative for United Nations Industrial Development Organization. By education, my background is agriculture economics from Bangladesh Agricultural University, and later I had higher studies from Hokkaido University, Japan, in agriculture marketing. Broadly, there are two areas of these questions, one about the digitization, and the other one is UNIDO and FAO's own program, that is 3ADI+. The first portion, I would speak about that, and the second portion, I will make a brief presentation on the 3ADI+. Having said that, if we see the market structure of Bangladesh agriculture sector, we mostly see that unstructured and volatile market. The recent price fluctuation, even for rice and other products, is one of the examples that there is no proper, due to the lack of proper information, market structure can act volatilely. Further to that, climate change further aggravated the problem. Increased temperature, cold, in-season rain, flood, further degraded agricultural land and damaged produces. Most of our farmers are small, marginal to small, and they are financially constrained. Due to that financial constraints, often they face difficulties prioritizing their decisions. Inadequate information services. Majority of the farmers in Bangladesh make farm management decisions without having market demand of the produces, prices. They barely get weather information and also soil characteristics, and supply of unsafe food is becoming one of the major issues nowadays. And digitalization, we have seen due to the COVID-19, we have seen that digitalization has become an important part of our life. Particularly, we have seen number of e-commerce organizations have developed, and they are not only in agriculture sector, but in non-agriculture sector as well. If we talk about digitalization of agriculture, it's about use of new and advanced technologies integrated into one system and enable farmers and other stakeholders taking informed decisions, improved processes and product quality. Concept of digital agriculture is relatively new and evolving in Bangladesh, but foundation for this technology such as mobile and internet connectivity are already available to support innovation in digital solutions. Transition to digital agriculture create unique opportunity to spur sustainable economic growth. UNIDO as an organization is mainly focusing on sustainable industrial development, where we also focus and where digitalization and industry 4.0 is also one of our tools for sustainable industrial development. Digitalization can help improve transparency and efficiency of the value chain, improve product quality, nutrition, and traceability of the products. It gives market information and greater access to market, including global market with right products. It can provide early warning systems to minimize risk by access to timely knowledge and information, reduce crop damage, and increase production, as well as also to save life. It helps to take informed policy decision by measuring damage assessment, predicting production volume, monitoring distribution systems and price as well. This also improves productivity, and farmers can make informed decision on production practices. Effective use of inputs can minimize production cost and improve access to finance for the farmers. This can benefit agribusiness by strengthening relations with the farmers and farmers group, improve operational excellence, improve trust with consumers. Financial institutions can get better trust with farmers and farmers group, stronger ease of business. They can minimize their risk. Development agencies have better results in development projects, improve confidence in evaluation, and better transparency. This also provide advantages to who provides advisory services. For example, advisory service providers can send text messages based advisory services to farmers on early warning, pest and disease prevention control, market price information, and also about new technology such as new crop varieties. For example, monitoring and evaluation, real-time data monitoring and evaluation using dynamic survey to capture M&E activities with geotag photos, and of course traceability, which is talk of the day in the current years, particularly after COVID-19. It gives complete visibility of products from farmers to consumers, QR code, barcode based traceability solution, batch tag numbers can keep track origin of the products, digital procurement transition with lot batch number. Now, as I mentioned earlier, there are a number of organizations are working in digitalization, either in e-commerce way, but a few are working in integrated way. So there is, I personally also believe there is a need for developing hub or platform for that. The advantages of platform that they will have information about crop and its harvest, crop sale, cost of production, procurement, payment management, warehouse stock, processing plant monitoring, product sales management, retail sales management, traceability, and market linkages. The platform, if I talk about the structure of the platform or hub, that there has to be active participation of the following area members: those who have program value chain experts, and they have also IT experts from knowledge from public sector, private industry, corporate, chamber of commerce, NGOs and civil society, development partners, and also globally, regionally and nationally experienced local and international firms. Those have working experience in Bangladesh as integrated agro-industry ICT solution developers. Role of the platform should be, their major goal of the platform is to bring benefit of the value chain actors, but should not look for benefit of his or her own organization. Members of the hub will share experiences, take leadership role for policy advocacy and regulatory issues. It should play the role as a platform to develop the process and provide solution to address related issues, constraint mentioned earlier, and provide right information to farmers, policymakers, business community, and consumers about market, so that actors of the value chain can get right decision in right time to get benefit out of that. Having said that, I strongly believe that digitization makes agriculture value chain sustainable, predictable, profitable, equitable, and traceable as well. That is my completion of my first part. May I get access to share screen so that I can share my next presentation on 3 ADI plus?
Yes, but Zakir, will you be able to complete it in 1 minute?
Okay.
আপনার access দেওয়া আছে।
একটু টাইমিংটা খেয়াল রাখুন স্যার।
Can you see?
Yes.
Okay. 3ADI Plus is a joint program of UNIDO and FAO, started 7-8 years ago. It's a global program. It's not a single organization syndrome, and focusing not only for conventional value chain projects, also different, particularly focusing on greener value chain. It analyze the stakeholders part and also promote SDG compliant investment. Main ultimate result of this program are to implementation of policy and institutional reforms, which says that access to safe and nutrition food, foster natural resource management, develop value chains and trade, reduce food loss. We all know that various studies shows, probably our colleagues from Agriculture Extension and Agriculture Research Institution have better information. Not less than 20% of food are lost. There are post-harvest loss. So one of the major component is to reduce food loss, attaining sustainable consumption and production, minimizing waste, greening the value chain, that is minimizing environmental harm, reduce biodiversity loss, pollution, water use, and soil degradation, protecting the continued functionality of food value chain, particularly during the pandemics like COVID situation and conflict situation, and channel investment into agro-industrial productive activities from private and public sectors and other development partners, securing employment and decent work for all across the value chain. It links small and medium agricultural producers and processors to end markets through value addition, and increase smallholder inclusion in the value chain, and focuses on female and youth participations. As mentioned, greening the value chain is one of the areas. Green value chains and supports sustainable use of natural resources and climate resilient food system, strengthening adaptive capacities of food system. How does it works? It works from a government request, which we call inception, and then we develop our plan for finding out a value chain development and select value chain or number of value chains, conduct analysis following 7 steps developed by UNIDO and FAO. This includes desk review, field work, inception, field research, validation, upgrading, planning, and finalization of the report. Then we go for securing funding for facilitation project and establishment partnership, implement and facilitate the project, and we share knowledge with our people through the network, presentation, and distribution. What are the expected impacts? It increase economic impacts, increase income and livelihood for small farmers, create jobs. There are social impacts, increase women participation in value chain segments, improve working condition for rural women and youth via safer production and processing facilities, reduce, there are environmental impacts, reduce chemical use during production process, improve soil health, and there are opportunities for organic farming. This is a picture how UNIDO and FAO are working. And thank you to all. You will get more information about 3ADI Plus in this link. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. This brings us to the last panelist for today's session. I would like to invite Tazwar Awal, Director, Laltir Seed. Our questions to him was, what are the major contributions of the private sector in agricultural development in Bangladesh? What do you think will be the focus of the private sector in agriculture in the next 20 years? And how is Laltir working to support agricultural development in Bangladesh? Tazwar, over to you.
Thank you, Mishaba. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon for the individuals that have logged on from abroad. So thank you for the questions and thank you for organizing this webinar and panel discussion. So the first question, what are the major contributions of the private sector in the agriculture development in Bangladesh? We believe that the private sector holds a huge achievement and achievement in the industry of agriculture industry in Bangladesh. Before 1995, the major player in Bangladesh that used to supply quality seeds to the farmers was BADC, Bangladesh Agriculture Development Corporation, which is a government-run entity. Till then, they were the ones that used to support quality seeds, fertilizer, and do extension on irrigation practices to farmers around the nation. However, since 1995, once the new Seed Act was created by the government, private sector was allowed to invest and come into the industry to start doing research and production and extension of hybrid vegetable seeds, high-yielding vegetable seeds, as well as open pollinated vegetable seeds that are indigenous to our country, where we can take those seeds and purify them and make them better for the farmers. Till then, along with BADC, it was more of a farmer-to-farmer trade, seed trade. Once the agriculture sector got private sector involvement, such as Laltir, we started our investment in 1995, which started off with just research on vegetable seed varieties. Today, Laltir has created 190 different varieties of vegetable seeds, of which are 95 of which are hybrid seeds. So when we look at the achievements since then, we see a lot of achievement by not only Laltir, but other private sectors who are our competitors and people in the market that are doing great work for the agriculture sector of Bangladesh. When we started our journey, the trade was informal. There was no dealers. There are no actual value chains where seeds would be sent to, where farmers would come buy from. So we had to create that whole value chain as well to make the whole industry sustainable, to let the industry set a standard to grow. Today, the demand for vegetable seeds, as I believe, is about 5,000 metric tons, of which 50% is supplied by the private sector. So 2,500 metric tons of vegetable seeds is either produced or imported by the private sector, which is then supplied to the farmers in our nation to grow produce for the consumers and the population of Bangladesh. I would probably like to say that of that 50% that is captured or which is being sourced and supplied by the private sector, Laltir holds 30% of their contribution. So coming back, what was the achievement of the private sector? I'd like to say a small fact. FAO in 1994 had declared that Bangladesh's per capita daily vegetable consumption rate was only 45 grams compared to the requirement of 250 grams for a healthy nutritional diet. In 2016, FAO did revise that figure and showed that Bangladesh now has 165 grams of vegetable consumption daily per capita daily vegetable consumption of 167 grams per day, which is a great achievement. And I believe not only the private sector's involvement, but the government sector's involvement in extension, creation of various OP varieties and hybrid varieties is what helped achieve this growth and helped achieve the sustainability, I believe. So thank you for that question, firstly. Secondly, what will be the focus of the private sector in the coming 20 years? Now, no one knows what will happen in the next 20 years. As we see, global warming has taken a huge impact, made a huge impact in the world. We see the global temperature going up every year and sea levels rising. A nation like Bangladesh, which is highly exposed to impact of climate change, around 1 million hectares of the coastal region is affected by salinity in Bangladesh, which is only rain-fed. Well, one rain-fed rice crop can be grown in these areas, where a lot of research has to be done to create new varieties, create new vegetable seeds and varieties that will be sustainable to salinity and drought. Not only that, biotechnology needs to come into play. There are 4 different aspects that I'd like to talk to you about. One is research, second is technology, third is capacity building and extension to farmers, and lastly, grooming the next generation of farmers. I believe in the previous presentations, a few of this was mentioned. Vaguely mentioned that these ideas have to come about. But as a private sector, we are the leaders, we are the forefront goers, and we need to be sustainable to keep our businesses running and to make sure the country has food security for the future. When we go with research, research is key. We need to create new varieties that are higher yielding. So while urbanization is happening in the country, we need to ensure that less amount of land that is being used for cultivation is giving us the most amount of output. So more vegetable produce being grown in the small space of land that we have. Number 2, we need to work on research on salinity resistant and drought resistant varieties. So we can make sure that the southern belt of Bangladesh, when we look at Shatkhira, Hola, Bagherhat, Borishal, Rampal, Potuakhali region, we have to make sure that we can empower farmers there to start growing extra crop per year to increase their purchasing power, increase their own livelihoods. We believe the initiative by the Bangladesh government and our Prime Minister of building Podda Bridge is going to be a huge impact on the southern belt. The connectivity from the south to Dhaka will be the quickest, rather than traveling from Dhaka to Rangpur, which may take 7 to 8 hours. From Dhaka to Bagherhat, Shatkhira, the southern belt region will take 4 to 5 hours maximum. So getting fresh produce from that region will be a key factor in the future. Secondly is technology. As the country moves forward, as global warming takes the center stage, technology has to be key in the future. And technology doesn't mean only biotechnology or technology with smartphones and apps, but in general, biotechnology for research has to be key. And biotechnology means gene editing, gene tilling, and molecular breeding, which will help companies like us, Laltir, grow a crop quicker, to find a variety quicker. Right now, conventional breeding takes us anywhere between 5 to 7 years to establish one crop. We need to ensure that we give the future farmers a better yield, higher yielding crop within 3 years' time, because we don't know how quickly the temperature will change. We don't know how quickly the weather patterns will change. As we saw this year in Bangladesh, our winter was very short. The duration of winter, the actual temperature staying below 20 degrees was a very short period, which is a negative impact on farming, especially when you do cold crops, such as broccoli, cauliflower, or any crops that need a lower temperament to grow. So we believe for us, technology with biotechnology, molecular breeding, lab-based breeding will be the key for the future. Next is technology of the other aspect of bringing artificial intelligence for farmers. The seed companies need to start investing in AI to help farmers grow better crops, sustainable crops, and higher yielding crops with less losses. For example, our company Laltir itself has created an app. It's called GeoBase. It was a joint venture between Laltir, a few Dutch firms, Wageningen University, where we created a model for farmers, where farmers could connect with our research team in Dhaka with their crop requirements, with their crop solutions. They can find cropping models, what crops to do at what period. They can give us a picture or a problem with a crop. For example, if a crop is stunted, why it's not growing. If a crop has a disease growing on it, leaves are turning yellow. Our scientists can take a look at the picture and give a solution to the farmers, which will help them get a return from their crops rather than destroying their crop and making a full season's loss. Second part of this project was satellite-based data. We created a software where satellite imaging is done and farmers are given real-life data within 7 days period, where what will happen in the next 7 days for them, whether there'll be a drought, whether there'll be flooding, or a natural disaster such as cyclone coming through their field. By giving them this data, we empower them with knowledge. If their crop is in the final stage of harvesting or maturity, they can always choose to harvest prematurity if they know that the cyclone's coming in 5 days. It's better to harvest premature crops rather than losing all your crops. So these are the ways we can empower farmers to ensure that there's food security and their own financial security regarding this aspect of technology. The third point is capacity building and extension to the farmers. We need to ensure that the farmers are getting the best cultivar processes, policies, and practices, get the knowledge of the best policies and practice, capacity building for that. So what we do is with Laltir is we have individuals that are all around Bangladesh. We actually reach every union in Bangladesh by now. We have 165 sales offices all around the country. And we have individuals stationed in every upazila. We're doing sales plus farmer extension, where we're training farmers on sustainable practices, cropping models, what crop to do when, crop rotation to make sure that they're not doing the same crop every year. This crop rotation is a key factor of soil nutrition. If you do the same crop every year, the soil nutrition depletes. But if you can rotate it a bit, the soil nutrition comes back a little bit and you sustain yourself for the future, I guess. So extension is key to make sure the farmers have enough knowledge and understanding of how to be more sustainable and more environmentally friendly and sustainable to grow more produce. Lastly is one point that someone mentioned earlier, I think Ayuba mentioned earlier in his presentation. We need to get ready to groom the next generation of farmers. We're losing that next generation of farmers because of education, which is a key, great aspect. Education is the way to move forward and the way a country grows. However, education also depletes, in Bangladesh specifically, the farmers, because a farmer's child now is getting a secondary education, college education, and they're moving on. They don't want to get back into farming. Whereas their fathers have learned from their forefathers to do cultivation, crop production, and farming. A young individual who is just a recent college graduate does not want to get back onto the field, burn in the sun, or get wet in the rain and work on a dirty field. They would rather work in a factory. They'd rather work in an IT farm. They'd rather work in an office in the city rather than living in the rural areas of Bangladesh. We have to ensure that those farmers are somewhat motivated and brought back onto the field. And the way to do that is to bring technology. If you can give them the right technology and the right support, I believe we can bring them back into the fields. Agriculture can be fun. Farming can be fun. If you have an app, if you have enough resources where you can look at digital farming, or if you can look at ways of being sustainable, someone can be enticed to come back, use that technology, use that process, and get onto the field and grow crops. They may even grow better crops than their fathers did, or their mothers did. Sorry, I should not discriminate on that, because we do have female and male farmers in Bangladesh. With that being said, we also have to bring in new technology such as drone technology. It was mentioned earlier just briefly. But drones and AI is the key for farming, to give the farmer exact knowledge on how to grow, what to grow, when to grow. And at the same time, if drone technology is brought into Bangladesh, where a field is sprayed with fertilizer via drone, if a field is sprayed via drone, agrochemical is sprayed via drone, then you don't need enough the manpower that we're already lacking now to go onto the field, stand for hours, walk for hours, and spray each individual plant. If AI is brought in, AI can detect deficiency in a field, say half an acre land. If the drone picks up that a specific corner is lacking some micronutrient deficiency, we can ensure that that specific corner is taken care of rather than spraying the whole field. This way, costs will come down for a farmer's input needs. At the same time, the younger generation who do not want to be on the field, who would rather use their time and resources elsewhere, can use that time to spray or do everything technology wise and be more sustainable in that sense. So the main key, more than anything else, to sustain in the future is to make sure that we're grooming the next generation of farmers. Without farmers, there will be no food. And without no food, there will be food crisis. And that is when a nation collapses or a nation goes into crisis. At the same, so keeping that in mind, those are the aspects that as an agriculture company, we need to work on to create better breeds, quicker growing breeds. So right now, duration may take 80 days to grow a produce. We need to make sure that duration is cut down to 60, 50, 30, till we can be sustainable within 30 days would be the right time, or even 60 days, depending on what crop it is. I'm just giving you an example. It's not set in stone, but we need to work with cutting down the dates. Even by 2, 3, 4, 5 days, shorter duration means we may miss the rain, and that may be a better produce harvested. So lastly, what is Lautier doing? I briefly mentioned that we're working with technology, we're working with research. Lautier was established in 1995 as a vegetable seed research company and production company. Since 1995, we've also created our own ecosystem. We have empowered 30,000 farmers in Rangpur, Nilphamari, Thakurga, and Dinajpur area, where farmers are now our contractors. Before there were farmers making produce, now they make seeds. So they have become entrepreneurs. We do contract farming with them where their buyback is guaranteed. We have brought them out of poverty at that point. And now a lot of these farmers who have been working with us for the last 25 years are very self-sufficient and empowering others in their area to grow further. So that is one achievement for us regarding our production zone. We have created 190 varieties, as I mentioned, out of which 95 varieties is hybrid. And we produce about 1,000 metric tons of seed per year of various vegetable seeds. We produce 1,200 metric tons of rice seeds per year, which is also ensuring food security in our country, because we are, as we've mentioned before, and we've seen, Bangladesh has done tremendously well with production of rice for self-sustainability, and has lowered our need to import rice from other nations.
Tazwa, can we wrap it up?
Yeah, 2 minutes and 1 minute or 2 minutes, I'll wrap up. Third is onion. Onion was discussed in the chat. We have established our first hybrid onion variety in Bangladesh. It has clicked very well. As I mentioned earlier, our hybrid onion has produced 13 metric tons of onion per acre. Compared to the indigenous varieties that are already in the market, Tahirpuri or Tahirpuri Super or Tahirpuri King, as we say, which is the more purified, bigger bulbs, which Tahirpuri King gives you about 900 to 1,000, well, 1 ton, 900 kgs to 1 ton. And then you have the normal one that gives you about 600 to 700 kgs. So we've already increased that production requirement quite a bit. We've gone double from the local varieties. So if we can ensure that we have enough hybrid onion seeds in the future, we can ensure that Bangladesh will be self-sustainable with onion production as well, where we can use the extra space of land to export our onions or any other crop that we can grow in that area abroad. Lastly, I would like to mention that it's a great achievement for Bangladesh. Lautier has been ranked number 7, the number 7th company in agriculture, vegetable seed production and research in South and Southeast Asia. It's not only a pride for us being ranked 7th in such a big market, but it's a pride for Bangladesh as well to be showcased in the forefront. And because of that, we have been able to export to 9 different countries. We're exporting Bengali seeds to 9 different countries, and we're taking Bangladesh to the world. We hope to achieve more. We hope to collaborate with you more. Anyone in this platform or on this webinar, if you ever want to collaborate with us, if you have greater ideas for us, we're always willing to look at options, look at ideas, and take in ideas and collaborate. So thank you for this opportunity, and thank you once again for your time to let me speak and for organizing this webinar. Sorry.
No, thank you, Tazwar. Chat box, Tazwar has shared a very interesting article on hybrid onion. If you're interested, download for an also in the chat box. We have a note from Dr. Abed who mentioned about his innovation. He has developed a key technology where crops planted once can be harvested multiple times. উনি একটা ধান করেছেন যেটা বছরে 5 বার পর্যন্ত করা যায় মাল্টিপল ইস্যু আপনারা ওনার সাথে কন্টাক্ট করতে চাইলে ওনার ইমেল অ্যাড্রেসও দেওয়া আছে we have some hands raised we'll come to that but there is one question for Tazwar and then if someone wants to answer that we can do that as well আমি আগে কোয়েশ্চেনটা নিয়ে তারপরে যারা হ্যান্ড রেজ করেছেন তাদের কাছে যাব একটু ক্ষমা চেয়ে নিচ্ছি আমাদের সময় বেশি লাগছে the question is will mechanization and digitization have displacement effect on the poor in agricultural value chain Mechanization and digitization displacement effect create poor begina. Kichu to poor way, but is there anything that
can you ask the question again? I couldn't hear it clearly.
Okay, the question is, will mechanization and digitization have displacement effect on poor in agricultural value chain?
I do not believe so. I think mechanization and digitization will be helpful because already there's a lack of labor in rural Bangladesh. Already there's a lack of manpower that's moving to the city to work in factories and various areas. So we're finding it harder to find labor. Labor cost is going up in these areas. To be sustainable and to ensure that consumer goods are sold in the market at a fair price, in the future you will need that, or there's going to be a scarcity of manpower where we won't be able to sustain any longer. If you, just a quick example, if you look at Dinajpur area, there's an EPZ that was created there a few years ago, a Chinese EPZ, I believe. Already the EPZ has taken away a lot of farm laborers. And the farm laborers that you can empower there now for contract farming or growing, they're already going up 600-700 taka per day labor costs. So you at that point, you won't be sustainable if you do not do digitization or mechanization, as you say.
Absolutely, very rightly addressed, Tazwar. Thank you so much. Helal sir, আপনাকে রিকোয়েস্ট করব আপনার কোয়েশ্চেনটা করার জন্য প্রফেসর হেলাল
Sorry, thank you. Talking about food is very difficult stuff, right? If you have less of it, you starve and you get stunted. And if you have more and the wrong kind, you become obese. And if you have even more, then you waste quite a lot. So in the development history, you can see early in the process, of course, there are poverty and all that, but most of the food wastage takes place on the farm gate. And as the country develops, most of the wastage happens on the food table, on the dinner table, restaurants and things like that. And I don't know how digitization can help educate people to look after that kind of wastage, minimize that, and it can increase food availability. Food security is a difficult thing. It has got many other dimensions, but food availability, how can we address that? That's one of the things that I suppose not discussed in this. Going forward, the other point I would like to make is we are talking about food security, but as we developed, I think we have to refocus ourselves on nutritional security rather than food, because more food doesn't translate into the right nutrients. So again, going forward, we need to sort of look into those things as well. Thank you.
Sir, we also have hand raised from Abu Muhammad Shoaib.
Yeah, Shoaib is here. Actually, Mr. Awal already gave the correct answer. Actually, I'm very much interested about onion seed, especially hybrid. As you know, hybrid onion seed is very much complex process or need lots of resources. Actually, our country onions is deficited. Actually, we need to import. So in that sector, actually, I think Lalti is not good enough to provide hybrid seed to our farmer. So as a farmer, I'm a farmer. My father is farmer actually, as well as I am also a farmer. So I am very much interested to get the actual help to produce hybrid onion seed. So how can I get this help, or what's the plan? Because
chat box Shobhi, apni অনুরোধ করব আপনি chat box এ আপনার email address টা drop করবেন. We'll see how we can connect you. So thank you so much. আমরা আজকে সময় অনেকটা পার করে ফেলেছি, but everyone I would like to thank you. Before we move ahead, আমি স্পিকারদেরকে একটু অনুরোধ করব সবাই যদি একটু আপনাদের ভিডিওটা অন করতেন, আমরা একটা স্ন্যাপশট নেব before we make the announcement of the next session.
Before ending, may I say one sentence about Professor Helal? Professor Helal, thank you very much, Professor Helal. You raised a very valid question on the nutrition. In my opinion, that main reasons is we are showing our self-sufficiency, is my point of view, that from production point of view, that's why nutrition is getting relatively less importance. If we calculate self-sufficiency from nutritional point of view, probably nutrition will come more forefront in the coming days. For example, in OECD countries, they calculate self-sufficiency from nutritional point of view. As Bangladesh is growing, so time has come to move away from self-sufficiency from production, instead of production point of view, to nutritional point of view. And then nutrition probably will get more priorities in the coming days. Thank you. Over to you.
Tazwar যদি ভিডিওটা অন করতে আরেকভাবে দেখতে পাচ্ছি সুব্রত. Thank you. It is a difficult topic actually, very important, but সবসময় এই ধরনের discussion continue করাটা difficult হয়. Are we ready for the snap? সুব্রত ভাই একটু ইয়ে করতে হবে. But innovation একটা জিনিস করার চেষ্টা করছি, সেটা হচ্ছে normally this kind of discussions end with the discussions which we don't want to do. যেহেতু আমরা policy level এ কাজ করি, the first step that we would be doing is compiling the learnings from all the webinars and publish in Financial Express. আমাদের সাথে আছে, we're again thankful. আর এরপরে এটাকে নিয়ে আমরা আরো কিভাবে প্রসিড করতে পারি ওই অ্যাকশন প্ল্যানটাতে আমরা যেতে চাই, but we don't want to end the discussions on this table only. So we are ready for the picture. Everyone please look at the camera and smile. Shubhi, Nabila. Done. Thank you. এবং আমাদের next presentation session হচ্ছে on 24th on women empowerment. সেখানে বন্নি শিখা আমাদের thematic partner. আপনারা যারা interested তাদেরকে আমরা লিংক পাঠিয়ে দিব. Would love to have you all, and সব প্যানেলিস্টদেরকে আরেকবার ধন্যবাদ দিচ্ছি যারা অ্যাটেন্ড করেছেন ব্যস্ততার মধ্যেও, তাদেরকে ধন্যবাদ দিচ্ছি because in totality we had more than 100 participants, but সবাই পুরোটা সময় থাকতে পারেননি. সবাইকে একটু ওয়েটও করতে হয়েছে, টেকনিক্যাল নিচও হয়েছে, but I think every good thing comes with the package. So thank you again. ইনশাআল্লাহ সবার সাথে দেখা হবে. সবাই ভালো থাকবেন, সুস্থ থাকবেন. আসসালামু আলাইকুম.